All right, everyone. Good afternoon once again. Go ahead and get started. Again, my name is Dave Nadler. I'm the Warning Coordination Meteorologist here at the National Weather Service here in Peachtree City, Atlanta. And this is our third briefing that we're doing on Hurricane Ian. We'll go ahead and get started here. So here's the very latest. This was from the 11 a.m. Update from the National Hurricane Center. I'm sure most of you are following this. But we do want to show it. The latest track forecast. And kind of what Ian is doing. It is a very powerful major Category 4 hurricane, and it's pretty much the northeast eye wall is making landfall as we speak, somewhere near like just south of Sarasota and north of Cape Coral region of Southwest Florida there. One of the things we wanted you all to know is that our confidence is increasing with the latest forecast track and trends, which is good sign with respect to hazards and impacts over the next few days for us. Given this kind of eastward track that we've been seeing over the last 24 hours, we do want to emphasize not to let your guard down. We may not see certainly the worst of the impacts that we were talking about a couple of days ago, but we are still going to be impacted by this storm. As it tracks to the north and east and then curves a little bit back to the northwest towards South Carolina. Gusty, strong winds will be something that will be sort of a primary concern for much of the state over the next few days, and the heavy rain access, although it is shifting a little bit more to the east across the state, it's still there. At this time, we don't have any current watches or warnings or advisories in effect for north and central Georgia. I know that's different along the coast at this time for obvious reasons, but for our 96 county forecast area, we don't have any highlights out, and that could change over the next 12 hours or so, but at this time, we don't have anything official out. All right, so here's the latest just satellite and radar depiction of Ian. Very, very classic, well-defined, symmetric tropical system hurricane. You can see on the infrared satellite there, and also the just a snapshot of the radar. The eye itself is very wide, more than 30 miles across. The eye wall on that inner band just outside of the eye itself is where obviously the strongest winds and heaviest rain is occurring, and that is starting to push towards the northeast into Florida as we speak. The track uncertainty, what we had been talking about over the last couple of days, is coming more in line, thankfully. So again, our confidence is increasing on kind of what Ian is going to do as it tracks kind of east-northeast or northeast across central Florida. There is a little bit of uncertainty still, of course, as it comes back across the east side of Florida into the Atlantic and what it's going to do there. But a lot of the models are trending toward turning it back to the northwest towards the Georgia, South Carolina coast as we head into later on Friday into early Saturday. So that's something we're going to have to watch as far as how much it kind of curves back towards the Georgia, South Carolina coast. Certainly will influence impacts down across the southeast part of our area over the next couple of days. And the graphic that I wanted to show you here on the right is a trend basically since Monday morning, showing the ensemble plume of models. The big kind of takeaway from this is that with each successive run of the models every 12 hours since Monday morning, the eastward track has been consistent. And there hasn't been any sort of back and forthness of like it going east and then back to the west and then back to the east again. So that gives us it's just more of an assurance that the trend of this eastward trend in the track over the last 48 hours or so has been good and legit, and we feel pretty good that it will continue this way. It may not continue to go too much more, to the east, but at least kind of where it's at now and what the Hurricane Center has put out there at this point, the forecasts look really good. And so the graphic on the left shows you sort of more of the ensemble plumes coming together over the next 3 to 4 days, and the one on the right is more of a trend over the last 48 hours from that where it was over the western part of Florida and the Gulf of Mexico, and then now as it tracks across central Florida where it is right now. So just wanted to kind of point that out, why our confidence is going up on the track at this time. So looking at impacts for our area, for north and central Georgia specifically, A couple days ago, these probabilities for tropical storm force winds were certainly a little bit higher, especially to the west of what we're seeing right now, and that's of course been dependent on the track forecast, and obviously with the latest forecast and where it's expected to go, the probabilities of seeing tropical storm force winds, basically 40 miles per hour or greater, has diminished across a good portion of our area, but it's still out there for parts of South Central, East Central, and Southeast Georgia. So the farther south and east you go down to the coast, obviously the chances of seeing tropical storm force winds is going to go up over the next couple of days as Ian continues to move to the northeast across Florida. So we talked, Laura yesterday talked, and we've been talking about this pressure gradient, which is going to sort of enhance the winds. It's already happening. Like, we're already seeing some gusty winds develop. We saw some a little bit yesterday. Today is going to be more. And that's going to continue. Basically, that trend of increasing winds is going to continue over the next couple of days. And the reason behind that is the strong high pressure to the north over the Great Lakes as it kind of tracks to the east a little bit. And as Ian approaches, even with Ian weakening as it moves across Florida and then toward the Georgia, South Carolina coast, that pressure gradient between those lines of pressure from the high to the low are really going to tighten up across the area enough where we will see some pretty gusty winds at times, basically from today all the way through Saturday. So it's certainly the magnitude is going to change a little bit depending on where you are across the area and the time as Ian approaches. Winds are going to pick up a little bit more, but this is definitely a factor and definitely something we need to be ready for. Even if you're in an area that's not expected to see any rainfall, the winds are still going to be a factor. So we've kind of put this graphic together based on what we're thinking. These are peak wind gusts, not sustained winds, but gusts, basically over the next 48 hours. And most of these, like the peak of these winds, basically what we're showing here is probably going to occur sometime tomorrow through early Saturday. So anytime from tomorrow afternoon into Friday, especially into early Saturday, that's when we expect these 20 to 30, 30 to 40, maybe 40 plus mile per hour winds the farther south and east you go across the area to occur. Now, we're already seeing some 20 to 30 mile an hour gusts across far southeast part of our area, down near Vidalia, Dublin, towards Swainsboro. That's going to continue through the day today, but then start to just inch up just a little bit tonight, tomorrow, and certainly into early Friday. So the concern, which we've been talking about, is the long duration or persistence of these gusts over the course of the next 48 hours or so, which could eventually start to, put a little bit more pressure on some trees that might be, loosely rooted, or if once the rain moves in, we're dealing with saturated soils that can loosen things up a little bit and cause trees to come down a little bit easier. So the trees and power lines coming down and the power outages is still definitely a concern, especially to the south and east of like a Gainesville to Atlanta to LaGrange line. Anywhere to the north, like in west of I-85, we still expect some gusty winds at times, even over 30, 35 miles per hour, especially as we head into tomorrow and Friday. And that can certainly be a problem in certain, like in localized places. But the stronger winds are definitely expected to be a little bit closer to Ian as it approaches from the south over the next couple of days. Now, rainfall. This is a storm total rainfall, basically from about late Thursday night into Friday and Saturday. The trend is definitely pushing the heaviest rain axis to the east, and we do, based on the latest track, we do expect these amounts to be adjusted a little bit lower, especially west of I-75. So if you're anywhere from Columbus up to Carrollton, up toward like Dade, Walker, Catoosa County, the amounts that we're showing right here might even be on the high side. There's certainly a chance for areas like close to the Alabama state line where you might not get any rain at all out of this system. So that said, we kind of wanted to just trend back a little bit, not go too crazy in case Ian decided to curve a little bit more to the northwest on Friday into early Saturday and bring some of that rain back to the west. So we didn't want to cut everything out on the western part of the storm there. Now, for folks in Gainesville, Athens, Blairsville, down toward Louisville, Greensboro, Dublin, Vidalia, Swainsboro, you can still see anywhere from 2 to 4 inches of rain, maybe locally higher amounts. As the heavier rain comes in, which is expected to be like late Thursday night into early Friday, that's when things will start to add up a little bit. So we feel pretty good about the eastern kind of third of the area with amounts, and then the western third may be a little bit high. So this will obviously be adjusted over the next couple of days, but you can get an idea. We're not really anticipating any major flood impacts, but certainly localized flooding or flash flooding could be a concern as we head through Friday and into early Saturday. So this is the latest sort of threat matrix, if you will, from Thursday, basically tomorrow through Sunday. Basically, we're kind of looking at like a 3-day window, with winds being the primary concern, starting as early as like as today across the far southeast areas, but definitely as we head into tomorrow. Friday will probably be the day where most of the area is going to see the strongest winds, and this is where we could see that areas across the southeast part of our area see gusts approaching or even exceeding like tropical storm force, like 40 plus mile per hour. So we're definitely going to keep an eye on that, and we want everybody to be prepared for that. Some of the higher elevations in North Georgia can also see like 30 to 40 plus mile per hour gusts as we head into Thursday night, Friday, and the Friday evening. Things start to come down a little bit on Saturday, but there still could be some gusty winds on the backside of the system. And then by Sunday, we think that the system, wherever it decides to go, will be weak enough and the gradient will relax enough that we shouldn't be dealing with a whole lot of weather hazards and impacts by the end of the weekend. So, excuse me. So this is kind of what we're looking at. Again, even though the wind gusts come down a little bit on Saturday, we could still be looking at some trees coming down, power lines down. Hopefully that doesn't become too widespread, but this is what we're expecting at this point. All right, let's see. That is, let me go back to, sorry about that, guys. All right, go back to sort of the summary slide. That pretty much wraps up the briefing. But again, Ian's extremely powerful at this point, moving into the southwest part of Florida. Our confidence in the track and what we're seeing right now, kind of coming across central Florida and then curving back, very close to the Florida, Georgia coastline, and then on up into South Carolina. We feel pretty confident about this and what the Hurricane Center is putting out. The main thing is, like we talked about earlier, don't let your guard down at this point. We're still, a couple of days of dealing with this system, a very powerful system as it moves inland. And Ian is expected to weaken quite a bit over the next 24 hours, mainly due to the shear aloft and the land, just land mass weakening it a little bit, but it's still going to have tremendous amount of rainfall and wind as it moves across Florida and then potentially on into the Atlantic there. So again, we don't have any current watches, warnings, or advisories for north and central Georgia at this point, but that might change. More than likely, it'll change over the next 12 hours or so as we head through the evening tonight, overnight hours, and into tomorrow. And it'll mainly be a focus on wind products. So whether we, go with a tropical storm warning based off of the winds or wind advisory, high wind warnings, we're still kind of debating where that delineation is going to be across the area. So, but we'll get that out and try to message that as simply and consistently as possible. So we are doing another briefing tomorrow at 12:30, same time, and kind of key in on some of the more specific details, timing, magnitude of the winds, rainfall, things like that. But at this point, thank you for joining. I'm going to stop the recording and we'll go ahead and just answer any questions that anyone might have at this point.